sometimes unenge wakagara uchigaya nhamo dzako uchiti zvinhu zvakaoma zvinhu mawani wai upenyu hwangu uchidai uchizvibvunza mureso iwe zvinongwai zvindiomera kudai so but hey ukazonzwa kuti iwe vanhu vane mamillions zvinhu zvechitowabhaizawo zvokutoti sometimes vanotosvikawo pakuti wai upenyu hwangu hwakaoma vakomana vane mamillions so tiri kutaura about Chatunga Mugabe. Chatunga Mugabe anga achabuda asi zvamiswa. So how a near freedom turned into a legal deadlock in Zimbabwe. So in Zimbabwean street language, few phrases capture a political and legal twist quite like this one. Anga achabuda asi zvamiswa. He was about to walk free, but something stopped it. So right now in Zimbabwe, the phrase is being whispered, debated, and blasted across social media in connection with one man, Bellarmine Chatunga Mugabe. So what looked like a quite legal exit in South Africa is suddenly transformed into a high-stakes courtroom battle. One that is no longer just about a single incident, but about power, influence, and whether the Mugabe name still carries weight beyond Zimbabwe's borders. This is not just a legal story anymore. It is a test case. And the promise of freedom that almost happened. So just weeks ago, the mood around Chatunga's case was very different. Inside legal circles in Johannesburg, particularly within the Alexandra Regional Court, there were strong indications that a plea agreement was nearly complete. Sources close to the proceedings described the deal as 98% done. The exception? A controlled landing, a possible suspended sentence, a fine, maybe a negotiated admission of guilt, then release. In simple terms, he was going to walk quietly, quickly, and most importantly, without the spectacle of a full trial. That's the anga achabuda part of the story in Zimbabwe. But then something shifted and everything stopped. So when the state changed its mind, so in legal battles, timing is everything. And in this case, timing turned against Chatunga. Instead of finalizing a lenient plea deal, prosecutors, led by South Africa's National Prosecuting Authority, reportedly hardened their position. The tone changed from negotiation in Zimbabwe to confrontation. So instead of lenience, the state began pushing for actual prison time. Not symbolic punishment, not a slap on the wrist, real consequences. So that shift is what transformed a routine legal exit into a deadlock. Because once the state signals it wants jail time, the entire strategy changes. Now it's no longer about settling, it's about fighting. About the 400,000 rands that complicated everything. So at the center of the storm is a figure that has become almost symbolic, 400,000 rands. That's the reported compensation paid to the victim, a gardener allegedly shot at a residence in Hyde Park. Kusandino. So on paper, this could have helped the defense. Compensation often signals remorse. It can soften a judge's view. It can support a plea deal. But in this case, it may have done the opposite. Because the state's response was clear, Zimbabwe. Justice is not for sale. Tagara toziva pana mune mari inohlisa. So prosecutors are reportedly arguing that attempted murder is too serious to settle privately. Financial compensation cannot replace criminal accountability. Allowing such deals would set a dangerous precedent. And that's where things became complicated. What was meant to smooth the process may have triggered resistance instead. So the change that locked the door. If the shooting allegation opened the case, another charge may have sealed it shut, defeating the ends of justice. This is the kind of charge prosecutors take personally. Reports suggest the firearm was hidden. Suspects were not fully cooperative. Authorities felt the investigation was obstructed. So, in legal terms, this signals risk. And kana vasinga cooperate fully, it shows like you guys, You're more like, you're still fighting justice. And so it tells the court this is not just someone who made a mistake. This is someone who might interfere with justice itself. Process yours. So, and once that perception takes hold, two things happen. Bail becomes harder. Plea deals becomes less attractive. In other words, this is the charge that often turns a manageable case into a serious one. So the silence from home that spoke loud. So in previous years, a name like Mugabe carried weight, influence, protection, expectation. But this time, something unusual happened. Instead of stepping in, Zimbabwean authorities stepped back publicly. Farai Marapira, speaking on behalf of ZANU-PF, made it clear Zimbabwe has full trust in the South African legal system. And more importantly, Chatunga should face the music. That statement changed everything because in political terms, it removed what many call top cover. You expect President Mnangagwa will say this. So no diplomatic pressure. Apana pressure kuna Mnangagwa. Or whatever. No quiet negotiations. No political shield. So for someone used to operating within a powerful legacy network, that silence can be louder than any accusation. That is the real meaning behind Zvamiswa, Zimbabwe. So the usual system that protects you is no longer working. So to about a name that no longer guarantees escape, Mugabe. Anyway, there was a time when the Mugabe name could open doors and close cases, but this moment suggests something different. It suggests a shift, not just in law, but in power. Across Africa, legal systems are slowly becoming more assertive, especially in high-profile cases involving political families. In South Africa, in particular, has shown increasing willingness to pursue politically sensitive persecutions, resist external pressure, enforce legal independence. That puts Chatunga in a very different position than many expected. Because this is no longer about Zimbabwe. This is about South African law, Zimbabwe. And in that system, legacy carries less weight than evidence. Kumana mpana Chatunga techimunzura tomufarira mpano yaya, but tinoona kana sometimes when the law is taking its course, mawan. So they are co-accused in the 12-year shadow. Another detail raising the stakes is what prosecutors are reportedly seeking for co-accused individuals. Up to 12 years, that number matters more because it signals seriousness. It tells the court this is not a minor incident. And once co-accused face heavy penalties, it becomes harder to justify lenience for anyone else involved. So tutaura pamusoro pemupana anga ana Chatunga Mugabe ari kunzi cousin wakeyo ari kunzi arifanira kurohwa ne12 years muprison. So kana mupana akarohwa ne12 years kuti muzoti Chatunga obuda freely ka, it becomes hard. Even someone with a powerful surname. So rikaitipotaura about rumors muRizimbabwe versus reality. As with any high-profile case, speculation is everywhere. Some online platforms have hinted the case might collapse, evidence might weaken, negotiations might resume. But inside the formal court processes, the picture appears different. Proceedings are continuing. The prosecution remains firm, and the outcome is far from certain. This gap between rumor and reality is fueling even more public interest because people are watching closely for one thing. Will the system hold? All right, is it a regional signal? This case is being watched beyond Zimbabwe and South Africa because it may represent something bigger, a signal. If the legal process continues without interference, if sentencing reflects the seriousness of the charges, if no special treatment is given, then this could mark a broader shift in how politically connected individuals are treated across borders. Murupabata. Zimbabwe, unoza kupedza kana 5 days mujere. It's not a game. It's really hard. And kana wakambopinda mujere seniso, you really feel it. Kana kunze munhu ari kupinzwa mujere akavharigwa, you really feel it on that level. I don't wish this on anybody. So that compassion, may just, mistake your judgment. But anyway, get so a leveling of the playing field. But if things suddenly change, if the case weakens, if a quiet resolution emerges, then men will draw a different conclusion. That influence still matters, just behind closed doors. I didn't matter about the psychological shift in this whole thing. Beyond the legal arguments, there is also a psychological dimension in Zimbabwe. For someone like Chatunga, this moment represents a collision between expectation and reality. So the expectation is that influence will protect you, networks will intervene, systems can be navigated. But reality, the process continues. Pressure increases, outcomes are uncertain. That gap can be destabilizing. And it often leads to one critical turning point, whether to fight the case aggressively or attempt to negotiate again from a weaker position. Zimbabwe Pacha is watching. Back home, and Munum Zimbabwe, the public reaction is intense. This is not just about one individual. It is about perception. For years, many Zimbabweans have believed there are two systems of justice, one for the powerful and one for everyone else. This case is challenging that belief, or at least testing it. Because if someone with the Mugabe name can face full legal consequences abroad, then people begin to ask uncomfortable questions about accountability at home, the meaning of Zvamiswa. At its core, this story comes down to one word: stopped. Zvamiswa. The plea deal stopped. The quiet exit stopped. The expectation of lenience stopped. The assumption of protection stopped. And what remains is uncertain. A live case, a determined prosecution, and a public watching closely. So, next. Several paths are still possible in Zimbabwe. Trial proceeds fully, evidence is tested, witnesses testify, outcome determined in court. 2, negotiations resume, but under tougher conditions, with less leverage for the defense. 3, unexpected twist, legal technicalities, evidence challenges, procedural changes. But one thing is clear: the easy exit is gone. Chatova nemazuva chinyaya, chatova nemwedzi, chatova nemaweeks chinyaya chichipisa ichi. A defining moment. So for Bellarmine Chatunga Mugabe, this may become the most defining chapter of his life. Not because of what happened, but because of what happens next. For the Mugabe legacy, it raises deeper questions about influence in a changing region. And for the public, it offers something rare: a moment where the system appears to be tested in full view. So, tell out Singapore, right? Get our final word. In the end, the phrase says it all. Chatunga anga achabuda, asi Zvamiswa muri Zimbabwe. He was close to freedom, very close, but something shifted. And now, instead of walking out quietly, he stands at the center of a legal storm that is no longer easy to control. The real question is no longer whether he almost got out. The real question is who or what stopped it, and why now? Tiripo panopa mzinda wevanhu muri Zimbabwe. Stay tuned, stay subscribed, stay blessed, and thank you for watching.